Hi, I'm Tricia Dunlap, a small business attorney with Dunlap Law in Richmond, Virginia. Here again today to talk with you about Virginia's new COVID-19 workplace safety rules. In my first video, I gave you a brief overview of these. At the time, it was June 24th, I believe, and we expected the regulations to pass at that time. They didn't. They weren't passed and approved until July 15th. But unfortunately, they go into effect sometime the week of July 27th. So at most, employers are going to have about 12 work days to get ready for these regulations. And I tell you what, folks, today's the 23rd of July. I spent most of this week working through these regulations to produce a free guide that's on our website, dunlaplawplc.com. And my goal was to break down these regulations in a way that would make them accessible and understandable so that you would know exactly when to call an attorney and get help and exactly what to ask. Well, let me tell you, the regulations are a nightmare. I hate to say that. I'm usually not that candid, but that's the bottom line. They're a nightmare. They apply to every single employer in Virginia, regardless of how small you are. The definition of employee is very broad, so you may have employees and not even fully realize it. If you have relationships with subcontractors who send employees to your work sites, or if you have a temporary staffing agency that sends temporary staff to you, then you're subject to the regulations also. You are going to need to evaluate all of the hazards in your work site to determine whether or not your employees need personal protective equipment and respirators. No, I'm not talking about masks and face coverings. I'm talking about respirators. You know, the things that you can't actually buy in the marketplace right now unless you're a healthcare facility or a first responder. Yeah, those. The regulations actually require you to provide those for your employees in certain circumstances, which are going to be more common than I think the regulators realized. Let's see, what else is there? There are training mandates. You're going to have to train pretty much every single one of your employees. Even if they have very low risk, you're still going to have to train them, and the training is extensive. There are cleaning and disinfection mandates that you're going to have to meet, and it won't be good enough if you provide EPA-approved cleansing materials, train your people on how to use them according to manufacturer's directions, and then adopt a policy mandating their use. That's not enough. If your employees screw it up and they forget to clean or they don't clean when they should clean, you're still potentially liable. Oh, here's another good one. The regulations have an anti-discrimination and anti-retaliation clause in them as well. So if you have employees who feel like your COVID-19 workplace safety measures are not adequate, then they can refuse to work in certain circumstances or refuse to perform tasks that you ask. Now, Virginia law has other mandates and responsibilities that the employee must face in that circumstance, but nevertheless, they can refuse to work. And they can also post on their social media expressing their concerns about your workplace safety measures, and they are protected from any retaliation if they do so. And I mean, potentially, even if they're not accurate in their portrayal of the measures that you're taking. Honestly, they're awful. These regulations are a terrible burden on Virginia businesses. And, you know, for anybody who knows me, I'm normally not that negative about regulations. There are appropriate times and places to have regulations, and some of these regulations are appropriate. You know, for instance, if you have an employee who has COVID-19 symptoms or has a known COVID-19 diagnosis, they have a positive test within 14 days of being at work, well, then that employee can't be at work. Now that makes sense. And they can't come back to work until they've been cleared according to protocols and the regulations. That also makes sense. But there's a lot in these regulations that doesn't make sense and that actually conflicts with other legal mandates either in Virginia or at the federal level. So I really urge you to go to our website, get the guide that I've created. You're going to need an attorney to help you survive this. I'm sorry to say that. I know the last thing you need right now is a legal bill, but that's just the way it is. These regulations, they're a nightmare. I'm sorry. Anyway, this is Trisha Dunlap bringing the bad news to you from Richmond, Virginia. I'm at dunlaplawplc.com. Thanks.